It's awesome. Yeah, love it. I'm so glad we got it done. And the team's doing a great job pushing it down here. So, and for data, it's going to be we're seeing, like we're talking about positives. We see where referrals don't happen. So then that gives us, and we see why they don't. So, oh, didn't take my insurance, didn't match up, which insurance is part of it. So that should be screened. But a year from now, we're going to have better information about where our camp's at. So it's going to be good.
Ron won't let him go.
I'm telling you, we got some live ones in here, so we're gonna get this meeting started here in a minute. Like 2 seconds. This is Mr. Brown. Good morning.
Morning.
Glad to see you. All.
Good morning.
Glad to see you all in person. I know it doesn't happen very often. Good morning. We're going to call the Legislative Committee meeting of February 16, 2022 to order. And a roll call. Allen,
Alan, present. Good morning.
Bates,
Bates here.
Brown,
Down here.
Silva,
Silva is here.
Wallace, Gums here. Strathman,
Strathman here.
Pirog,
Here.
Shepro.
Shepro present.
Thank you, everybody. Can I entertain a motion for approval of the minutes, October 2021?
Brown will ask for unanimous consent for approval.
Thank you. Any objectors? Very good. Any public comment? Do we have any online? I don't see any in the room. Don't believe so. So under old business, I may want to roll this over to my co-chair. We've got a few things that kind of fell through. One of the bills got pushed or basically killed till next year. So Ms. Strathman, do you want to say anything here?
Sure.
Take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Many of us had gone to the home of Miss Patsy Hirsch last summer, and we had asked her to come in and talk to us today about the House bill concerning the pesticide dicambra. And many of us saw the effects of the pesticide drift at her house last summer. And she has a wonderful presentation. And as a result of her presentation last summer, State Rep Anna Moeller had introduced a bill. And that bill has been put on the back burner for a year now, because there is talk that on the federal level, the license may not be renewed. That's the talk, that the license for dicambra on the federal level may be removed, so they might not be getting their license again. So that bill has been set aside for a year to see what the federal government does with it. So that's what I have for the old business on that.
Well, that was a good job.
Yeah, well, we got some attention with it, right? That's a good thing.
So it does have hope, though. I mean, we still have to network and communicate and talk and all those things that have to happen. So thank you.
Yes.
May I make a comment, Madam Chair?
Ms. Bates, go ahead. Yes.
In my circles, we were not, maybe not going to support this bill because it asked, this is just for future reference, I guess. It had asked for a 1-year phase out, like it was going to be off the market immediately. Now, maybe this is a great idea if the federals are going to go along with that, but a lot of people like in Sierra Club and the IEC thought you needed to do a more phased, cease and desist. So that's just what was going on in Sierra Club and the IEC.
So Mavis, maybe we have some time to have some influence on if the bill is reintroduced to change the wording on that a little bit. It doesn't make sense to me either to have a gradual phase out, but
no, the environmental groups thought we had to have a phase out.
Oh, they did think that.
To get it passed, I think.
I see.
They said we're going to freak out the farmers too much or something like that. But is the
careful, Kenyon's here.
The federals are going to do that. Maybe that's a perfectly logical way to do it.
We'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if what I'm saying is relevant or not, but it was part of the discussion, so.
Well, thank you very much. And you know what, that's kind of the problem is we always have things that we're about to talk about or we're working on or keeping an eye on and, 2 minutes from now, it'll be dead, gone, wait till next year or whatever. So always a fluid situation with the General Assembly. They're meeting today. I think the Senate starts at 11:30 and the House starts at noon. There's lots of hearings. The virtual rooms are open. So as far as the legislative update goes, the pleasure of, the beauty of the legislative update is you can basically talk about everything that's happening right now. And there are a lot of bills that we've been getting emails about. We've been asked to do witness slips for different things. And if we're paying attention to those, personally, there are some bills that I don't support that are, folks are asking for support on. But if you read the whole thing, there might be something in there that doesn't sit quite right with me. So I'm encouraging everybody on this committee to read through your ISACO, your UCCI stuff, all your newsletters, because we get the heads up from those organizations that we work with to keep track on things that affect the county directly. I know Madam Chair has got a few things she wants to talk about in that aspect, but we'll get to that here shortly. But hopefully everybody, without going into specifics of each bill, these are things that we do. I know I speak to you individually on a regular basis about bills that are active and our, so the public's aware, our divisions and our units of government, our directors and our folks that are doing the work, they are paying attention to these things also. They keep very close track of legislative issues that matter. And they inform me of things that I don't know about. And so hopefully when we get things through, we'll come and bring them to you. But right now, everything's kind of up in the air. So there are some things, there was a little bit confusion on this unfunded mandate bill. I don't know if you guys were in judicial and public safety. There's some confusion as to whether this should be under new business or old business. It's a legislative update. So I think we're good there. I want you to read through that though, because not everybody supports that or everybody does support it. If the county chooses to take a position on that, please inform me because I don't have that information. So I got nothing else on that. So under new business though, we would like to have a really good discussion. Legislative liaison, Madam Chair, brought this to us and I think it's a great opportunity to have a good discussion on it. So I'm going to hand it off to Madam Chair, if you want to start the engines.
Oh, well, room.
Ooh, yeah.
Here we go. Where do I begin? Before my predecessor, Chris Lawson, was elected to office, Kane County had two lobbyists, two different firms. And please excuse me, I did not bring the file with me, and as you can see by my background, I'm speaking at home right now. Each one of the firms were representative of the county. I don't know if they were Democrats and or Republicans. Primarily, I would think because the board was heavily Republican at that point, they probably represented the party. But nonetheless, there were two different firms. When Chris Lawson came in, being a fiscal conservative, watching the bottom line of Kane County, he decided that they were no longer needed and those contracts were let to expire. So for the last 8 years, now going on to 10 years, Kane County had not had any strong representation down in Springfield or nationally, meaning we didn't have any lobbying. There was no one down there to rally the resources that are needed. I know that there has been support by the legislative committee, which was enacted to support that effort. But for me to ask Cheryl to go down to Springfield to spend a week down there, to knock on doors, to pay close attention to the hundreds of bills that are going through, to have breakfast down there, and to arrange for all of that. And apparently now, because of the way the budget is, on her own dime, just doesn't seem appropriate at all. There's an opportunity for us to have access to some potential money that's coming through from the feds to the state. And to be active with that process, I think, is critically important. We also don't have, I strongly believe that there is no active voice for us, that why we have a voice. The ISACO, which is wonderful, NASACO, fine, but they work for the whole state, all the counties who are members. They're not a specific advocate for Kane County. So if we wanted to have some road district or a road repaired, or get bridges repaired, or have some economic development resources coming through, we don't have that strong advocacy to call one of our members of the committee, probably the chair or myself, at 2:00 in the morning to say, hey, they're changing this bill. How do you feel about it? Let's jump on it. We can have access to it now. And that's what a lobbyist, a good lobbyist, will do. So I've talked to two, both the Democrat representative, just to get a feel for it, as well as a Republican representative, both of whom are familiar with the county. I don't want to share their names because I don't want to consider them candidates for the job, because if you want to go forward on this, we'd have to put together an RFP. But the opportunities that are presented to us are being ignored and missed. And there is no voice of Kane County down there. And I can't speak from knowledge that we are one of the only counties that does not have a representative, a lobbyist, down in Springfield or working federally. So this is an opportunity that I think we should discuss, should consider, and move forward with it.
Shepro, comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Miss. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Shepro, go ahead. Having technical difficulties.
Yeah, perhaps I can add a little perspective to what Madam Chair has just said. The principal lobbying firm that was brought in by Karen was called Rauchi and Sullivan. And the two principals were Andy Rauchi, who is a very well-connected Democrat, and Dave Sullivan, who is a former Republican state senator. So the idea was that you had in one firm people with experience and knowledge on both sides of the aisle.
Thank you, Ken.
The experience that was inherited when McConaughey took office is there was a board member who was called the legislative liaison. And that unfortunate person was tasked with, I guess, reading all the bills, which I predict or remember did not happen, and reporting to a convoluted board structure. And by the time she made her report, it was usually April. And as anybody familiar with Springfield knows, all of the deadlines are way before that. And by the time you get to April or May, and of course, that would be a report to, say, the executive committee. By the time anything was presented to the full board, it was really too late. I would also say that I think the experience at the time was, and NACO was a national organization, didn't really do much for us in Springfield. Metro counties was a problem because, as Madam Chair points out, they were representing the entirety of the counties and many times acting for the interests of Cook County. So I think the the other problem is that it's not enough to say, here's something we'd like. You really need, in my view, an early warning system. And one of the great things about Rouchy and Sullivan is that they could tell you within minutes, practically, a bill has been introduced, but they could also tell you whether it was something to worry about or something that was for a press release back home somewhere. I don't know anybody who's talked to Mark Armstrong, because he's been the legislative guy for the Assessors Association for a long time. And every session there are, actually, I did a presentation last year at his request about the legislative process. There are, on any given topic, there could be 27, 30, 50 bills introduced. And you need to have somebody who can tell you which are the ones to worry about or which are the ones that might go somewhere. And as indicated, the timing is critical. As diligent as this committee and its chairs are, the structure is just not set up for a, early alert, early response when you might have something to do. I mean, literally, as Madam Chair says, you might learn at 5 o'clock at night or even 2 o'clock in the morning that something's going to be marked up, called for a hearing, and what's your position? And by the time you have a committee meeting or the board adopts a resolution, it seems to be a wasted effort. So I would be, I believe Mr. Lausen took the position that we didn't need a lobbyist because he was our lobbyist. And without any further comment on it, I would just say, again, the legislators don't have time to read all the bills. There are, I forgot the number, but there are over 6,000 bills, I believed, last session. And that was a reduced number because of COVID. You can't possibly digest all that. We need somebody with the expertise to help with that. So I would be very supportive of further and serious inquiry into that. It's probably already too late for this session because it's already almost the end of February. But I think it's something that should be seriously looked at. And sorry to go on and on.
No, I appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Mr. Shepro.
Thank you, Ken.
When Gums here, when I was speaking with Madam Chair, I don't commit on things that I don't really understand in my brain. So this is a fluid topic in my brain. I think having it explained a little bit better to our committee, my brain is not decided on where my position is, but I think it was swayed a little bit there by both of you.
Chairman Gums.
Ms. Strathman, yes.
Yeah, I would just like to say that this makes a lot of sense to me. We have, in this last year of a huge learning curve for me, I have learned how effective and efficient Kane County is, and what a wonderful job most of our departments do. But I think we can always use the extra help, and to have somebody who can further our agendas and what we need to get done, what we want to get done, makes a lot of sense to me. I would think that this is something we should go forward with.
Very good. Anybody else have a comment?
Madam Chair, Bates,
Chairman Gums,
Bates, please.
oh, and then Lewis after that, please.
I couldn't hear who was first there.
Bates.
Bates, and then Lewis.
And then
Bates, go right ahead.
So I've been lobbying with Sierra Club for many years, 10 years, 15 years. And Sierra Club is a organization that's like $1 million a year, maybe two. And we have had a lobbyist for as long as I can remember. When one moves up to, be something else, we immediately hire another one. And they are always so helpful to us. They bring issues to us that we want to know about, any, and, you know, when there's 6,000 bills, I don't know how they do it, but they have keyword searches or something that will immediately alert us to bills that, because there's plenty of bills that we want to support, but there's plenty of bills we want to kill. So we need to know about both of those. And the expertise that the lobbyists bring, and like Madam Chair said, being there all the time, being ready to go to lunch, knock on doors. I don't know how we could do it without this expertise. And I think the legislative committee would have even more to do when we had a good legislature, a good lobbyist bringing us more grist for our mill. So I know it's expensive, and we always talk about how we don't pay other people enough money. So that has to be a concern. How are we going to justify spending more money on this when our poor circuit clerk is, you know, well, we get these terrible stories of people losing their employees. So we better have a very good story about how to justify the expense. Mr. Shepro did come up with this interesting idea of one Democrat and one Republican lobbyist. That's a pretty good idea. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Bates.
Shepherd, I think Ms. Lewis was next.
Ms. Lewis, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I actually am really for this idea. I think when we sat through over the last couple of years before this, when Pritzker first got in and was passing out money to everybody, I think we missed out on getting some, because I don't think we had enough representation, you know, really fighting for Kane County. So I'm all for this, but I was just curious, what is the cost of a good lobbyist?
I have only gotten one quote, and like I say, I don't
That's
want to
Madam
bring
Chair.
that forward. Oh, I'm sorry, Pirog. I don't want to bring that forward yet.
Okay,
but-
I was just curious if it's 100,000 or 300,000 or,
well,
and it's, yeah. All right, we'll come back to that a different day. That's fine. And also, would this lobbyist report to the legislative committee, or how would the structure of that look?
They would certainly report to the legislative committee on what would be done. I have both people that I have had an opportunity to speak with have said that it's important that they have a primary contact, which would fall on me, but I would ensure that I may call, you know, Mavis at 2 o'clock in the morning, said, Mavis, this is happening, only because Mavis is the chair of this one committee. How do you feel about it? Let's get it done. So that's hypothetical, but that's a way it would work. So I would always try to confer and get back to them immediately.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I think once this person, you know, came on board, we would get earlier heads up too. So hopefully it wouldn't be that 2 o'clock in the morning, but it would be what's our county position on these things. So I think it's an excellent idea. I will support it. Thank you.
And if I may, I just wrote a note. One of the other things that was suggested, and I have to say that Chair Gums and Co-Chair Strathman have done an outstanding job of reaching out to all of our legislators with their package of awareness and welcoming package from Kane County. Well done on all of that. But what this will do is that if there's a bill that we want to sponsor or not, the lobbyists will be able to walk the halls and collaboratively bring our group of legislators together to support this, which is something that we are not able to do sitting in Kane County.
Right.
And that has to be done quickly and efficiently.
Thank you. Ms. Molina, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm not a member of this committee, but I had a question regarding our current cost for associations. We currently have 2 lobby groups that we're a part of. I think together those account for about $26,000 a year. Are we looking at keeping those annual dues? One is the Illinois Association of ISACO, I think is their newer organization, and that one I think is the yearly cost of about 24,000. Is the idea to keep both of those associations, lobby associations, as well as hiring an additional lobbyist? Or would we be replacing ISACO with our own lobbyist?
I cannot answer that at this point because we are a conceptual idea. But I believe that ISACO has been of great value to the county.
Absolutely.
And I would say that that would be something that we would want to continue with. But I'm saying that at this juncture, that we need further, much more work on that issue and taking a look at the budget. And I appreciate, Myrna, your fiscal awareness of what our budget is and what the costs are. But we have an opportunity to have a lobbyist bring money back to Kane County, not just giving it back. ISACO does not give us money. We can't earn money from ISACO. They bring awareness to us.
Pro comment.
Ms. Molina, were you done or did you have further question?
No, I think that Madam Chair said this is a fluid idea. So that was my first question. Originally, I know when we had hired Mr. Rauchi back in the early 2000s, I'm not sure how much money they were able to bring back into the county, but obviously I'm interested in continuing to hear this conversation.
Very good. Mr. Shepro, go ahead.
A couple of points. One, I think that every relationship that we have with organizations, whether it's ISACO or anything, I think that should all be on the table. Yes, you can get useful information from that, but a lot of these organizations, especially the statewide ones, they charge their dues based on the size of the county, but generally the voting strength is based on one county, one vote. And a number of these organizations, frankly, are more concerned about what are the 80 smaller counties and not so much the bigger ones. And yet a lot of times we're paying, I'm not sure what our dues arrangement is, but the 24,000 sounds like a big number if it's just based upon, one county, one equal number of dues. Also, a lot of the information that we get from these organizations, I think could be furnished by a capable lobbying firm. And I don't know that I'd like the word lobbying. I think, it has a bad connotation, but we're hiring them, I think, as much for information and early alerts as we are to go, twist people's arms.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the key element. In terms of where they would report, I think they would have to report to this committee, but there again, our structure, our county structure to get an official response is so lengthy that you have to have, as part of the arrangement, you just have to have some understanding that the chair or some board members or the chairs of the committee are going to be have to be given a fair amount of discretion to respond, because when they call and say there's a committee hearing tomorrow, what's your position? And I think a lot of you know already, this is not necessarily like Washington. They don't sit there and hear testimony all day long. You often sign in or for or against a bill, and you don't need to show up, and they don't want you to show up, but they want to know who's for it and against it. And you don't have time to go to committee and then to executive committee and then to the full board. You may remember early on, the day that we finally were going to vote on supporting President Biden's bill was the day he signed it.
Mhm.
And, you know, had we had any serious objections, it obviously would have been too late. So I think that it's not just a matter of saying, who are we going to hire? And by the way, I think we can easily verify what the cost was, but there's no way it was $100,000 or $300,000 a year.
No, it was not. It was not, but that was several years ago. I think that contract that I reviewed was 10 years ago. So times have changed, but we'll see. I mean, we can put out the RFP, and I'd like to talk to Joe Onzik to get an idea. I've already given him a heads up that this potential might be happening. And we can take a look with the Finance Committee of what monies may be available for this.
I would suggest also we maybe reach out to the former lobbyists. I'm pretty sure they're both retired, so they don't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak, but they do have an enormous amount of expertise and knowledge on how this works. And again, there's a cafeteria of services that they would offer, and you don't have to sign up for the full meal plan.
Bates, please.
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
So I think that the lobbyists usually have a whole bunch of clients at the same time. Isn't that right? Like Mr.
Yes.
Shepro? So, because I know a few lobbyists right now, and I think we would be only one client of many. In fact, I know the lobbyist who is representing Cook County right now, and she'd be happy to represent Kane County. I don't know if that'd be a conflict of interest. We don't want a lobbyist who's like maybe DuPage and Kane, because we might be both going for the same money at the same
I mean,
time.
that's Shepro, if I might, that's why you have to look carefully. I mean, they have to register as to who their clients are, so it's not a matter of, well, we can't tell you. I think it really depends on who the other clients are. If it's Cook County, that's a problem because Cook County is always different. And Cook County is always looking for a special deal where they want things that won't apply to anybody else, or they don't want things applied to them.
Or maybe DuPage or DeKalb or our neighboring collar counties would be worse because we'd all be. And I have one more thing I'd like to say. I might want to see this lobbyist report directly to legislative, because I feel like that would be the direct route to the committee. And Madam Chair, I'm sure you get very busy and might want to have Cheryl and Michelle being your first line of defense on this. So I would kind of like to see this report to legislative, if possible.
Oh, as for report, I was just saying about budgeting, what money.
I think she was referring to like the direct contact.
Oh, the direct contact.
Yeah.
That was not per my conversation with the two lobbyists or governmental liaisons. That was not their request.
Oh, they didn't have a request.
No, their request was it should all go through the chair. So I'm just
Chair of the county or the chair of legislative?
the chair of the county, So I think that'll be something that we can certainly talk about. I'm only sharing the knowledge that they shared with me.
Okay.
The other thing, as far as being a lobbyist who has different clients, which of course they should, they're there, that is their business. One of the beauties of it is that oftentimes they do work collaboratively, so that I've been given an introduction from DuPage through one of these interviews that I had that I'm going to be meeting with for a totally different matter. But that's because this individual worked with them and knew them, was able to make the introduction to help out with Kane County. So it's not always adversarial. And oftentimes the resources that we're talking about, unless they're written specifically into that bill, are oftentimes spread out between counties.
Very good. Well, I think it's a great idea.
Question, Alan?
Miss Allen, go right ahead.
Thanks for letting me pop in here. I don't have background here. I know that Mr. Shepro pays attention to everything. And I don't know how many of you know Brian Pollock over in the county clerk's office, but when Brian was on the county board, this was a passion of his and he paid attention to everything. And if Brian or Mr. Shepro were walking the halls on our behalf and looking for the things that we need to watch out for, that we wouldn't want to support, and we're looking for opportunities to get us money, I would have absolute confidence in that. When we had a lobbyist before, and I realized that, I'm out in the back benches, so I wouldn't necessarily know, but the report that was given to us was literally a listing of all the bills that had gone through the session. What I was interested in seeing was, where were you, Mr. Lobbyist, able to say, we reported in that Kane County was against this because it wouldn't be good for Kane County, or here's where we were able to get money directed towards our farmers or towards our stormwater problems or to the Fox River. We never got that kind of report. At least it didn't filter down to someone like me. Maybe the chairman was getting a report on exactly what they were doing to help us or prevent things happening to us that we didn't want. But my confidence would be in Mr. Shepro. If someone were like Mr. Shepro, who would be reporting to you, Madam Chairman, or to Ms. Gums or Ms. Strathman and saying, here's something we need to look out for, or here's an opportunity, then I would be all for spending money for it. I just don't know if it's possible to have that actually happen, and I would love to know. Thanks for
Can
letting
I
me.
respond briefly to Mrs. Allen?
Yes, Mr. Shepro, please do.
One, I thank you for the somewhat, I think, undeserved compliment. Mr. Pollock certainly was and still is, if you worked with the clerk's office at all, on top of virtually, well, not virtually, every bill that touches on the functions of elections of that office. And I would also add Mark Armstrong knows an unbelievable amount of where bodies are buried, how to find out what bills are good, bad, and so forth. And I would add him to that. To the point that Mrs. Allen raised, I recall, Deb, you bringing that up when I was the attorney about the lack of detail. And the only thing I could say to that is my impression, which was in part not just an impression, but based on conversations, is that the lobbyists are reluctant to put on paper, I killed this bill or I brought in this, because there's a fear that how they got it done is something that they either is a trade secret or they don't want to appear to be bragging about what they did. I think that there are ways to get that information without necessarily having a report that someone can FOIA and say, oh, look, here's their lobbyists killed this bill.
Trade secret.
Sometimes you don't want to announce that somebody killed the bill. You just want it to die.
Alan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, I understand that. If there's someone who is getting that information and has confidence in it, then that's fine with me. I don't know exactly how would we report that, but I'm going to guess that Madam Chairman would talk with Ms. Strathman, Ms. Guns, and that somehow that would filter down to us. And I don't mean that we have to point fingers and say, you killed this or not. Just like to have the confidence that Madam Chairman knows that the work is being done. or Ms. Strathman, Ms. Gums, or you, Mr. Shepherd, that the work is being done.
Very good.
So,
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Chair Gums, where do we go?
Well, the way I see it is there should be probably a presentation, like a formal something in writing from some, well, we're at concept, so we need to go to paper and say, this is what we think needs to happen. What is the scope of work? Perhaps, how long, or is it a full-time position? Is it all year? How much is it going to cost? I think those things, those issues need to be brought to the committee first, and then we can, you know, have discussion about, do we put this out? I mean, how do we hire a lobbyist? I mean, do we have somebody in mind? You know, that's a conversation that needs to happen, and then go from there. So I think that we.
May I make
Madam
a
Chair?
suggestion?
Yeah, yes.
I think before you invite the lobbyists in, I would suggest that we invite Mr. Armstrong and Mr. Pollock
Good
to
idea.
come in and share with the committee how they do things now, what we should be looking for. I think that they don't cost very much to come in and do that. And I think they have an enormous amount of information that would help shape what we think we're looking for, and even what parameters. Because I agree. I mean, you can put somebody on a retainer for $10,000 a month and not necessarily be getting anywhere near what you're paying for.
Mhm.
So I would even suggest, if we want to move that along, maybe that would be a special meeting of this committee or a early committee of the whole meeting, but I would strongly urge that as a first step.
Madam Chair, go ahead.
Could we also at the same time start drafting the bones of an RFP? Because this is we're going to have to go out, request for proposal. We know it's going to be most likely over $30,000. So when I made that face, do we have anybody in mind? No. I had a couple of informal interviews just to get the lay of the land. People that I know and I trust, that I've worked with previously, and no intention, any idea that these individuals would be considered to be hired, because it has to be a fair process. And it's going to be over $30,000 annually. So we'd have to go out to RFP. So perhaps talking to Brian and Mark, I think is an exceptionally good idea.
Yes.
But at the same time, we can start putting together the bones of that RFP. And so we also have an outline of what would be working with, and maybe I can ask Ken to help out with that. And then we can share it and do it at the same time.
And then teach me how that's all done. I'm learning.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair Gums.
Ms. Bates, go ahead.
I think, so when we did the RFP for the solar panels, I think that comes through procurement. I think they know how to do that, correct? ma'am?
This professional services, I'm not sure that I've ever felt that procurement is really conversant with procuring professional services of that type. You know, these aren't widgets or a service contract for.
Or solar panels?
Project.
Well, yeah, I mean, frankly, I would start with some of our other professional service RFPs. And then again, I would probably want to sit with Mark and Brian and Madam Chair and work on that proposal as well.
Mhm, mhm.
How about the RFP for the PIO? Would that,
Oh, there was no RFP.
there was no RFP.
It's because
It's an
public
employee.
information is an employee.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, I think we'll get it done. We'll figure out.
And
how
there's
to-
also plagiarism, which is to find out what other entities have done. And
My
Some of
favorite
the-
writing tool.
Yeah, some of my best work has been finding something else who did it first.
We don't have to reinvent the wheel on that. Totally agree.
Exactly.
Very
So,
good.
so how about if we start working on that and then at the next month's meeting, we can present an update? Would that be convenient, appropriate?
Yes, that is, sounds good to me. Ms. Strathman, sound good to you?
Absolutely. I think it's worth our time. I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing it. It's a great conversation and I
Yes.
think it's great. I will give you a little warning. I may or may not be here for next month's meeting, so we'll see. But
Okay,
in the meantime,
we'll keep you completely informed.
yeah, oh
Yes.
yeah, I know you will. You'll be calling me
Yeah.
all the time. Do we have any comments any more questions about this topic at all? Comments?
Good topic. Good discussion.
Miss Allen, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thanks for the translucency of this discussion. It's very helpful. And I'd like to express support for Madam Chairman, Mr. Shepro, Mr. Armstrong, Mr. Pollock, and of course, Cheryl and Michelle for, keeping tabs on this. I don't see how we can miss with that consortium of good ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Allen.
Silva, Silva,
Yes, Dr. Silva, go ahead.
good morning. I would just like to say that this is a classic example of investing in Kane County. And we didn't need to do it as much before because of the work that Mr. Pollock has done and Mr. Armstrong and other people, other great directors. But this is an important thing to do, I believe. I'm open to more discussion. The last thing I want to say is just that we should probably take care that the lobbyist company or organization or individual doesn't direct to us to whom they have to report. I believe that should be a decision of the committee and of the board, and whether it's Madam Chair in her capacity to do everything that she does very well, or the committee. But I believe we should be the ones to decide that and move forward accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. I tend to agree with that. Should be on our terms since we're paying them. Do we have any comments from the co-chair? What do you got for me?
I
Don't?
I don't have any new business or any other comments. I'm looking forward to being back in the room with everybody. I'm missing everybody. And that's all I have for today.
All right.
How are you, Madam Co-Chair?
Yeah.
It's been a rough start to 2022. I will say that.
That was Madam Co-Chair Strathman.
Yeah.
Mr. Shepro.
Sorry.
Okay, you did it like 4 times and I didn't call you out. I'm just letting you know, because I like you. We don't have a need for executive session. And I would entertain a motion. for
Motion to adjourn, Shepro.
Shepro,
Second,
motion.
Bates.
Oh, I'm
Bates.
not a member. Well, yeah, I'm ex officio. Never mind. I can make a motion. I just can't vote on it.
I'm going to leave. I've got to get to the office. Bye.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we got Bates making the motion,
Brown's.
Sure.
Brown seconds.